Hello everybody and welcome to an unexpected, unscheduled, but another live stream with Andy the Gabby Cabby. And this time I'm sitting in my living room away from the car. I've actually got the place to myself, and this is a live stream that I've wanted to do for quite some time. Now at the moment I'm seeing one person in the chat. Well, three now have turned up. Now I'm here. So if you could give me a quick hello and identify yourselves so I know exactly who you are, and then I'll tell you what all this is about, but you could probably guess by the look at the title. Also, this is the first time I've used the new StreamYard software actually on my home PC. As you can see, I'm in the comfort of my own living room with everything at my fingertips, and it'll be good to see everybody. Who have we got here in the chat? We've got Rich Harvey, hello to you. Alan Pape, Mick E. So we've got some people joining in already. We've got about 15. Yeah, the whole idea of the exercise today, I want to do this live stream and one other as well. It's really to expand on a couple of videos I did a week or two ago, I suppose, to do with the process of dealing with credit cards and debt and all that sort of thing. Because of my own life experience, it's become a passion of mine, trying to learn the process and learn how to deal with this, and also try and assist other people to do the same. Before I go much further, can I just have a sound check, please? Can you give me a 1 in the chat if you can hear me okay? Because one thing I found earlier, I've got a Logitech webcam up there and I nearly blew my own eardrums off, and I had to turn the sound down a little bit for it to actually be okay. But yeah, Jerry, I am early. This isn't instead of, this is as well as. So I'll be doing this live stream now. It's more to do with British law than American, so to say. So I thought I'd come on about now this is more aimed at British audiences. Shut that door, Keith James says. Oh, believe me, it's shut. Nobody's coming in. Sound is loud and distorted, Alan Pape says. Turn your device volume down slightly, Alan. I heard that helped. I don't think I've got any volume control on my oh bloody hell webcam, to try that, and I found it helped in my end. As I said, I almost blew my own eardrums off, but in the main everyone's coming through loud and clear. Yes, before we go any further, I want to roll back time just a little bit. Okay, I mean, you can see behind me now I'm in my living room, normal everyday house. I have a family. You can see my 2 kids on the wall back there, and everything's hunky-dory. Turn it down a bit, laugh out loud as you're distorted, Mike Alligator says. I don't have any volume control on this webcam. I wish I did. Let me have a little play here and see if I can just see if I can help everybody out. If not, try it at your end. Sorry, but still distorted at low volume. Okay, it might be me, but we'll see how we get on. Let's chop that down a little bit, and let's see if we got anything else. Okay, I've turned my end down a little bit. We'll see how we get on with that, Alan. What are you actually looking at it on as well? That's the other thing. And hello, Tracy Greenwood. Yes, let's go back a few years. As I said, you can see the house behind me. I've got a wife and 2 kids. You can see them on the wall over there. Those pictures are quite old now. Typical family guy, typical setup. But it wasn't always like that. Now, I want to show you a picture. Distortion tolerable. Okay, well, thank God for that. Let me see. If I share my screen. There we go. Allow. Right, I don't know if you can see that, folks. That's a building a little bit down the road from me, probably about 5 or 10 minutes away, and I owned that top flat right there, right at the very top. See where the black cars are? It's a pokey little 1-bedroomed studio apartment, and I hoped you can all see that. Now, I moved into there many years ago, probably 20 years ago, actually, with my girlfriend at the time. And what we decided to do was set up home together. And our combined salary was somewhere in the region of about £20,000, which at that time was pretty good. Well, a couple of months afterwards, and I won't go into details with this, she decided to up sticks and leave. She wanted to go. And that was the end of that one. Off she went. And I was left with a little bit of a conundrum. My income halved. My outgoings were still the same. And I was left in a world of shit. So what did I do? I had a couple of choices at the time. It was either go home to mum, which was an option, or it was dig my heels in and fight. So I decided to dig my heels in and fight. But the problem is, before I did my household budget and worked everything out, I'd be lucky if I had £10 to my name at the end of the day. £10 at the end of the month. You can't live on that. It's ridiculous. So what did I do? I turned to these things: plastic, credit cards, loans, you name it. I did it. I basically filled as many of these up as I could to live, to try and get by and to try and survive. And my credit rating was pretty good at the time. And over a period of time, I completely destroyed it. I was backed into a corner, like a cornered animal, so to speak. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do now? I had, bill collectors knocking on the door, as the song goes. I think that was out of Beverly Hills Cop somewhere, and various amounts of shite. It really wasn't good. So what I decided to do was learn all about the law. I believe very much in, I don't believe in the no-win scenario. There's a possibility for everything. So I looked into this. I looked into consumer law, where a lot of this is based, and I looked into other things. Now, before we go any further, the idea of this broadcast is not to teach you how to get out of paying your credit cards altogether. That's completely wrong. This is to teach you how to deal with it if it's gone to the debt collectors, which in a lot of cases it does, because purely people stick their heads up their backside and don't deal with it when they should do. And it all starts when you get letters like this. Let's just cover my address up. This one's Parking Eye. This is unrelated to a credit card, but it just gives you an example of the kind of shit you get in the post. And this one's all to do with me getting caught out parking somewhere I shouldn't, and they want their money. Well, fuck right off is what I basically got. Now, years ago, with these debt collector letters, they got very militant immediately. There was big red letters, big underlined stuff, and they really tried to frighten you. And I've noticed over the years that they've become softer. They've tried to, oh, hello, it's okay, it's fine, let's talk about this, let's get everything sorted out and you can pay us. And that's what they're in for then. Let's take this credit card, for example, right? You have this credit card, and let's say there's £1,000 limit on it, and you build up the £1,000 limit. All of a sudden, you're in a position, particularly if it's high APR, you can't afford to pay the bill. So that the bank starts writing to you. What you should do is say, right, a pound a month. That's the statutory limit, minimum you can pay, providing, they go for it. But what happens a lot of times, people stick their head up their backside and they hope it goes away. And then what happens? It gets passed to a debt collector. Now, there's Cabot, there's Lowell, and there's, various others out there coming up all over the place who basically want your money. Now, Alan made a very valid point at the beginning of the live stream, and I'll put that up there. This should be interesting, but I know from personal experience it doesn't always work. You need a full postal address to send letters to, but they are out there. They use registered offices, PO boxes, and sleight of hand and everything to try and get out of it. Yes, Alan, been there. This is the other thing. They only accept low payments for 3 months. That's what they tell you, but this is crap. They just try and strong arm you into getting your money out of you. But when it's with the original bank, you can arrange low payments. But when it goes over to the debt collector, it's a completely different kettle of fish. Now, the process of sending something over to a debt collector, be it Lowell or Cabot or anything else, is done by what's called an assignment. You take the debt from the bank and you assign it to the debt collector. Now, there's 2 types of assignment. There's a legal assignment, which is the one that we're interested in. And then there's another kind of assignment that the name is equitable assignment. There it is, whereby the account's just transferred over. Now, the difference between the 2 is a legal assignment means that the debt collector has the account, the balance of the account, and also the legal authority to chase you for it. An equitable assignment is where they've just transferred the account and they can't legally come after you for it. Now, what the whole trick is the burden of proof all of the time. The burden of proof. I mean, I've got another letter here I can show you. I don't know if this is anybody. This is Mortimer Clark Solicitors. Now, these guys are usually associated with Cabot Financial, which is another one of the debt collectors. Now, these are the legal arm of, Cabot. And when you start getting nowhere with them, Mortimer get involved, and eventually they start getting shirty, which we'll cover in a minute. But the simple thing is, going back to the burden of proof, you have to say to the debt collector, okay, I'll accept what you're saying. You have my account and I will accept that I owe you money. But what you have to do is prove that. And I want to see the following documentation. Now, the key 2 documents that they talk about are a notice of assignment and a deed of assignment. Now, they sound very similar, but they're not. A notice of assignment is something that you're sent in the post from the bank, which tells you that your account has now been moved from, let's say Halifax, for example, over to said debt collector. That's what you get. A deed of assignment is the legal apparatus by which that debt is legally assigned to the debt collector, with all of the debt collecting powers that they need to be able to come after you for it. And a deed of assignment is a document with signatures on and various other pieces of information which they legally need to complete to make the whole thing lawful. And more often than not, which you probably won't find out unless you really push, it's a piece of paper with a load of account numbers and names and things on them. And it just gets thrown over and they chase you for it and you get scared and everything else. It's as simple as that. Now, we've got someone come in the chat making some valid points. Let's go with this one. Firstborn Unicorn. A debt collector is a third-party interloper and you don't have any contract with them, so you can tell them refer back to original creditor. Now, that is a very valid point. That's one tack you can take. There's a thing called the Bills of Exchange Act, and there's a particular section in there, which I'll cover in a moment, where it's basically a case of, hang on, you've signed for this account. What's it got to do with me? Your signature's on the account. It's your problem. Leave me alone. You're committing fraud. Fuck right off. It's as simple as that. I know plenty of people criticise and doubt this process, but I have used it twice, and on both occasions the supposed debts were written off and set to zero. See, KW, thank you very much for backing it up. It does work. I did that years ago, had to pay debt collector for my credit card. I found it easier. I had to pay a fixed amount each month and no interest. That's what kills you, is the exorbitant interest. Well, the thing is, Vicky, I get what you're saying. Perhaps it is easier. Hi, Zena W, by the way, but are they legally entitled to take that money from you? This is the whole argument, really. If you have been paying them £1 a month, £10 a month, £20 a month, whatever it is, you still need to do this to prove beyond a legal shadow of a doubt that they can legally have your money, and you are entitled to a refund if they can't do that. Now, let's go on to the free letter process now. As I said earlier, you have to say to them, okay, I accept what you're saying, prove it. Inevitably, they will come back and they will fob you off. So you write to them again. And then you say, right, okay, I've asked you once, I'll give you another opportunity. And they'll probably fob you off again. So you write to them, well, 3 times, and you say, last chance, prove it or leave me alone. And then the process goes on. Now, what I want to show you now, if I can work out how to share the damn screen, is the actual letters themselves. So if I say entire screen, I might go a little bit funny a minute, but bear with me. There we go. And let's bring this up here. Now, this is the 3-letter documentation. I downloaded this straight off the internet, and you can see for yourselves what there is. This is the first letter, and as you can see, it says leave a clear 14 business days. That's important, 14 business days between each one. This is a notice of conditional acceptance. This is the first letter where you say, okay, I accept what you're saying, but you've got to prove it. And you want to see certain documents, the original instrument of indebtedness or proof that said the instrument still exists. If this is an assignment of a legal thing under the Law of Property Act, I want to see the deed of assignment, notices of assignment, default warning letter, default notice, termination notice, and also it cites a couple of case laws which you can actually look up, and you send this to them. Now, what happens then, a period of time will go by and they'll write back to you. And what will happen, they will give you an envelope full of gumph, and they will try to tell you that they've done what they've asked. And if you look through, there's no deed of assignment anywhere. They haven't answered the whole question. So what you then do, after 14 days, you send them another letter. Let's share the screen again. Now, before I do, did everybody see that letter all right? Because I'm messing around with screen sharing, and I want to make sure that you could see that letter before I share the next one. If I can just have a show of hands, and then we will move on. Come on, folks, did you see the letter? Let me know. And I'll show you the second one in the sequence, and we'll go on with the whole process then. Seen it fine. All right, brilliant. Thank you, Alan. The next one then, if I share the entire screen again, and we will go back. Okay, this is letter number 2, and this is a notice of non-response. So basically, you've sent the message in the first letter that you want to see proof, and either they'll ignore it or they'll blag it and send you a load of bullshit. So what you're basically saying here is, I've written to you once and you've not provided what I've asked you to provide. So I'm going to write to you again and ask you again. And this is the letter here. And again, it asks for the same documents once more and some legal framework by which, you know, you can justify your actions. and you start to say to them, if you don't give me the information, then we're going to have a problem. And at the end, I will give you a further 14 days to respond. Now, more often than not, you won't get a meaningful response to that either. So what you do, you send them the third letter, the third and final one in the sequence, notice of irrevocable estapel. I can never pronounce that properly, but I know what it means. And it basically says, I've asked you on 2 previous occasions to prove your case, prove that you can legally come after me for this debt, and you haven't done so. And again, you go down the list and tell them what you're missing. The key thing, again, is the deed of assignment. And you say to them, basically, any contact with me from this point is illegal, fraudulent, harassing, and I will report you. And that is the 3-letter process right there in a nutshell. Now, it isn't as clear cut and dry as you think it is. What you're doing here is proving that no debt exists between you and that debt collector. You've asked them 3 times and they failed to provide you with all the information. Now, what will happen is a few different things. They'll either keep badgering you, in which case you go to the Financial Services Ombudsman. If you have any mental health issues or you have any vulnerabilities, there's some fairly recent legislation that's come out which says that they can't come after you, and there is a template available to get an exclusion on mental health grounds. There is a friend I've helped with this recently where they've done that themselves. The other thing as well, they could get shitty with you and refer it to their solicitors. Now, this is one I received. I'll cover my details up there. Mortimer Clark, as I said at the beginning, this is one of the solicitor firms, and they're connected to Cabot Financial. And when you see the word solicitors, you start, oh shit, they don't believe me. It's all part of the process. Again, it's intimidation. There's another letter that you can send called a single letter. And if anybody wants the template, I can put that up. And you're basically saying to the solicitor, look here, I've said to your client 3 times, prove your case. 3 times they haven't done so. You're now hassling me as well. So I'm going to write to you once, and I'm going to ask you to prove your case. And if you can't, stop harassing me, or I'm going to, put you in front of the legal conduct authority, the solicitors ombudsman, and put in a complaint with them as well. And inevitably they will push it and push it and push it and push it. And the whole thing is you need to build up a collection of evidence for this. Now, I've seen a couple of people in the chat, Alan being one of them, and somebody else as well, that's saying that I'm already paying, then what? Well, if you're paying them and they haven't provided this proof that you're paying them, you get your money back. The boot's on the other foot then. Some of the debt collectors get a bit bolder than others. Cabot is one. They can be a pain in the arse and quite stubborn. Lowell Portfolio is one that's not too bad, but every now and again they can get to the point where they will say, look, we're not playing with you anymore. We want you to pay what you owe, or we're going to take you to court. At that point, inevitably, it will go to court. And what you will end up with, and again, I will cover the details, is one of these, a claim form. And this details what their grievance is. You've got the part there which tells you what they're taking you to court for. Now, when you get this in the post, don't panic. You'll think when you get one of these, it's all over. It isn't. Again, you're relying on burden of proof. And one of the things you have to do more or less immediately is file what's called an acknowledgement of service. You do all of that online and it gives you the instructions on there. And what an acknowledgement of service does it gives you double the amount of time to deal with it. If you don't, you get 14 days. If you do, it doubles to, I think, 28. So there you go. Before I tell you how to deal with that, I'm just going to have a look through the chat and see if I missed anybody. Yeah, Zena W. If you go down the route of paying what the debt collector states, if you pay all in one go, does it leave your credit rating bad? No, it doesn't. Because what happens if you go and look at Credit Karma, I think it's one, and there's a few others, Experian, and so on and so on, you will actually see an entry for your debt, and it will be the debt collector that's got it on there. And that's another thing, you know, if they've got that on there and they can't prove their right to it, they're fraudulently affecting your credit rating. But if you end up not knowing about this process I'm explaining and pay it off in full, then that debt should then be listed as settled, and that's it. It will go. And if it's not, you can file what's called a notice of correction with the debt collector agency and the credit agency and get everything removed and get things settled. I've gone down these roads and my credit rating's starting to creep up again. So it is fixable. Now let's have a look at some others. Vicky, is it if it's with the debt collector, they do not have contract with you, ask them to provide you with the original contract with your wet ink autograph. They can't. That's a very valid point as well, Firstborn Unicorn, about a wet ink contract. But there is a precedent that was set somewhere. I can't remember the exact date and who it was, and you know, the defendant and the claimant, but they are trying to imply now that electronic signatures are sufficient. And as unfortunate as it sounds, some are getting away with it, and I know it sucks. Where else are we? Yeah, there we go. Promissory notes and bills of exchange 1882 is how I pay gas, electric and water lawfully. And that same Bills of Exchange Act is very relevant in what I'm discussing now. Nice surprise to see you so early. That's neat. Yeah, I'm literally just doing a little added extra. I had the place to myself and thought, what the hell, I've been meaning to do this one for a while. The time profit, did you have to do the knowledge? I'm assuming you're talking about cab driving. And yes, I did, but it was the version of the knowledge that belonged to the licensing authority that I'm with. Mary Wick, tell them you'll sue them for harassment to the sum of 10 times what they say you owe. It's a scam they're pulling on you. The best thing to do is ignore and then block them. That is one tactic, Mary, but more and more they are taking you to court now and taking you to task over this. Thank you, Jane Griffiths. I appreciate the comment. Listen, everybody, before I explain the next bit, this is Andy the Gabby Cabby. I would say daily chat from his cab, but it isn't. This is just another added bonus thing that I wanted to do with everybody. I've been meaning to do for ages, and it was trying to get the place to myself so I could get it done. This is purely a passion of mine. I'm just trying to help other people out. It's to do with dealing with credit card debt once it's gone to the debt collectors. I do plan at some point in the future to do something similar with council tax as well, because I've seen a lot of cynicism in the original videos I did. You know, you can't do that, just pay your bills. Oh, piss off. You know, of course I pay my bills, but I pay my bills to people who can legally take my money, not those that can't, and it's up to us to prove it. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. In fact, let's put my little thing up here, shall we? Ticker tape, there we go. Yes, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button on this live stream. Let's try and get those up a little bit. As Alan pointed out, we've got 87, 88 watching and only about half that in likes, so I'd appreciate that. Also, if you're new to Andy the Gabby Cabby as well, please consider subscribing to the channel too. That's wonderful. We're really motoring up now in the numbers, and it's wonderful to see. We're across some social media platforms. If you want to follow us on any of them, we're broadcasting this to Facebook as well today. You can jump across there and subscribe to us or follow us, whatever the terminology is in those other places. And also we have channel memberships. You'll see some people in the actual live stream chat with a little circle symbol next to them. Those are our channel members, and they just pay, I think it's £1 a month at the moment. There's no ties to it at all. It's just a token gesture, which keeps me in my Coke habit, and very, very appreciative. Anyway, let's get on with it, shall we? Right, if you paid that collector off, they state, does it still leave your credit rating bad? All right, we've done that. If you offer to pay the debt in full, if you have a claim against you and it's gone to warrant, if you pay the full amount on the claim, it will not be registered with land. That's right. Okay. So it's gone to court. Okay, I've shown you this. And, somebody has actually taken me to court for one. I mean, I'll just hide that bit, but you can see quite clearly Cabot Financial have taken me to court with their solicitors for a very, very old credit card debt. Now, I've gone through the 3-letter process. I've complained to the financial ombudsman, and I've done everything else to completely frustrate them. And they've probably thought, bollocks to this, let's let the courts decide. So, okay, we'll go down that route. Now, a lot of people, as I said, when they get something through from the courts, they'll think, oh, where's the checkbook? But you don't have to do that. Again, it's burden of proof. It's all burden of proof. It doesn't matter what case it is, whether it be fraud, whether it be something to do with money owed, whether it's to do with a dodgy used car. It's all burden of proof all of the time, and this is no different. Now, within court, when you go to court, there are certain procedures and certain things you have to follow, and they're all governed by something called CPR, and that's civil procedure rules, and there's various sections depending on what you're dealing with. Now, one very vital thing to remember, when you go to court and you have to deal with somebody, you are entitled to full sight of all of the documentation that they're relying on to form their case against you. And that's very vital in this instance. Now, if I share the screen again, where are we? Share screen, and we go entire screen again, allow, and let's pull this one up. CPR 18. There we go. CPR 18 request. Now, this is part of the civil procedure framework, which you can go through once it goes to court. Now, you send this basically if it has gone to court, if they filed claim against you. Now, what you have to do fairly immediately is file that acknowledgement of service with the court to give you an amount of time to deal with this. Then what you have to do is send this letter to the debt collector. And what you're again asking them to do, and this time you're asking them under Civil Procedure Rule Part 18 and Part 31.14, you're asking them to provide everything you already have done, but you're now doing it within the legal framework. And you can see there, it's all the original stuff. And you go down, a notice of assignment, deed of assignment, and everything else. The whole thing, remember, is the key thing is the deed of assignment. Once you've sent this letter, you then need to go to letter 2. You don't wait for a reply, because at this point time is of the essence. You wait 3 days and then you send letter 2. And this basically says again, with a little bit more urgency, I want what I'm asking for, and you're going to send it to me. And again, it shows case law and various other bits and pieces there. 3 days after that, again, you don't wait for a response. Send this one, a notice of non-compliance. Basically, you've asked them. Now, remember, you've got the original 3 letters that you sent in the first place, plus these 3 letters. and they will not provide you with the deed of assignment, which is the main document that you need. Now, when you get to this point, things heat up a bit. This is where you can start involving the courts and the court process, and start asking judges to do different things, because if they're not doing things of their own volition, you need to order them to do these things. There's no two ways about it. Now let's have a look who we've got now. Two channels I can recommend, which already has the lawful way to deal with council tax, and the rest already prepped all for free. That's handy. Anything like that, Firstborn Unicorn, put that in the comments in the main chat when this stream is finished, or alternately now. That helps. They just want you to be the paperwork rather than living man or woman. Corporations cannot contact the woman. Cheers, Andy. So if you don't pay the debt collector and go through your process, does the debt collector leave bad marks on credit ratings? Xena, they can attempt to, but what you can do is apply for a thing to get it set aside in the courts. That's another subject entirely. Grateful for your help, Andy. If a claim is against you as public knowledge, and local newspapers can ask what information and print it. Name of channels, please. Yeah, Firstborn Unicorn, stick them in the comments somewhere if you've got alternative sources, and that will help people. There we go. Lawful Rebellion and Debts channel. He's done a free PDF with step-by-step instructions to deal with these things. Brilliant. Thank you, Firstborn Unicorn. That's wonderful. Now, another thing, as I said, now we are at the stage where we have to go through the courts. And let's share the screen again. I'm just going to mute my mic ever so quickly because my phone is ringing. I'll be back. Right, sorry about that, folks. What actually happened, I had a driver going to do a job, and he's just got to the customer, and he's been told the job's cancelled. So last minute cancellation. Oh dear, oh dear. So where were we? Sharing the screen. What do we do when it comes to the courts? So we do entire screen, allow. Now if we go back to the CPR 18 things, there we go. Right. So if they've ignored your 3 letters and they've ignored your other 3 letters via the courts, we then come on to what's called a N215 form. So what you do here, you file this with the court, and you send a copy to them as well. And what you're basically doing now is ordering the firm to send you what you're asking for by way of this documentation. And again, you want the deed of assignment and everything else. Now, what you do, you send it to ccbc@justice.gov.uk. That gets it directly to the County Court Business Centre. Now, the CPR 18 request for information template that goes with that form is this one here. And again, it just lists the documents required, which again is the notice of assignment, statements of account, deed of assignment, and so on and so on and so on. And a conclusion, and this is the important thing, it's basically a statement of truth. Now, these are some examples of responses from Hoist. They're one debt collector. Lowell are another one, and generally they will refuse to produce a deed of assignment purely because they haven't got one that proves that they can come after you for the debt. I can't put it any simpler than that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So at that stage, when they refuse it, what you do, you write to the County Court Business Centre and you ask them to put a note on the file and say, I've asked them, and I've asked again to provide me with this information. They haven't done it. So I'd like you to put a note on the file signalling their non-compliance. Then what happens? Any judge worth their salts will see this, and they'll think, right, they'll do one of 2 things. They'll either order the company to provide the information, or they will insist that you file a court order at additional expense to do it yourself. At some point in time, it will get transferred to your local court if it gets that far, and then you just write to the judge and ask them, you know, please order the company to provide the information. Here's the justification for it. And, you know, you go with that, and then they will order them to, because at the end of the day, it's crucial that this document is provided to prove their claim. And under civil procedure law, you're entitled to it. If at that point they don't, one of the things you can do down here, where are we? You can do what's called a no order response. It basically means if they don't come up with the goods, you can then ask the court to strike the claim. And when you get to that point, you're in. So there you go in a nutshell, folks. There it all is. Again, it's a burden of proof the whole time, all the way across. You've got to ask them to provide what they want. If they can't, they're screwed. It's as simple as that. I've got documentation that I've used time and time again over the years, so you can see examples of this. I have friends that I've helped get out of trouble using the process that I've just showed you. There's a couple of other little bits, including mental health and financial issues and things of that nature, and it goes on. Now, what I want to do is just spend a few minutes again just looking through the chat, try and pick out some valid points that people may have come up with, and then we'll look at closing things up for the day. So let me go back, and there's been a fair bit here. Hi, Julie Baldwin, by the way. Julie's actually been doing some wonderful work for me in the background. She surprised me this morning with some designs for t-shirts and things. and I absolutely love them. I'll make them public knowledge very soon. 82, 2 channels, paperwork. I'm just catching up with where we are. Queen of Freedom channel. The girl there shows her calls to these companies so you know how to speak to them. That's another thing. I mean, you can speak to them. Really, you can, but I prefer to deal with writing and everything, because if you speak to people, although their calls are recorded, there's still an element of plausible deniability with the whole thing. Julie Baldwin, nearly missed it. Been designing for Andy. Only committing fraud daily against every single man, woman. Yeah. This thing here, Firstborn Unicorn, what it is, it's a big Ponzi scheme at the end of the day, and it needs shutting down. And there's loads of them that are guilty of being involved in it. Cancel the fraudulent direct debits on the same day all across the country. All these companies will crumble within a month. Yes, parking firms, debt collector firms, you name it. They're gone. So you're all contributing there. I'm on Twitter but won't touch Facebook with a barge pole. Yeah, some of them won't. Their nicknames, Facebook and things like that. You're doing a great, helpful job here, Andy. Can you put all links in your video description so we can all see and copy it and send them off? Yeah, I'll put the link in for the 3-letter process and also the civil procedure rules as well. And if anybody has any trouble, you can come over and ask me anything else about that. The guy who runs the Lawful Rebellion channel is a federal postal court judge and puts all the documents on PDF for free on his channel. I never use direct debit. I prefer to be in charge of my money and not have my money be in charge of me. I totally agree with that one, Nick B. I mean, one of the things at the moment, the gas and electricity companies really want you to sign up to a direct debit. And I won't do it because I want control of my money. That's the thing. Now, one thing to point out with what I've gone through today, this is all based purely on UK law, UK consumer law, and probably a bit of common law thrown in as well. I don't think necessarily the same things would apply to America because they look at things in a different way. I hope you found this useful. And as I've been requested of Zena, I will put the links to the 2 documents that I referred to in the description underneath this when it's finished. The other thing that I covered is council tax as well, because there's various theories all over the place to do with council tax, how to not pay it, how to get out of it. But at the end of the day, it's part of the system as well. They can bill you, you say, I won't pay it. That gets to a debt collector and all sorts of shit happens further down the line. And you can get yourself in a bit of hot water there. So when I get a situation like this again, when I get the car to myself, I always get the car to myself, the house to myself, I will go down that line and do something on that with you. I'm back tonight. I'll be here with the usual live stream about 8 o'clock-ish, where we just have our usual news roundup and chat. And hope to see you all then. Don't forget, everybody, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you're new here, it's good to get the numbers up, and they are flying up. Hit the like button on the chat, and yeah, have a look around and see what else we've got. Thank you all for contributing, by the way, with your comments, especially those with helpful links. It's all great. And that's it, I think. And I look forward to seeing you all a little later on. So for now, as I always say, toodaloo.